It began before sunrise. A factory worker rode his bicycle through the mist, humming a tune he didn't finish. The streets of Tangshan were quiet, almost too quiet. Dogs paced restlessly somewhere far below. The ground murmured like a warning no one could translate. In a small apartment, a mother checked her sleeping son. She brushed the hair from his eyes, whispered something soft, a promise only mothers make when the world still feels safe. She didn't notice the glass of water trembling on the nightstand. A miner wiped the sweat from his neck, deep underground. The tunnel gave a low sigh, as if exhaling from the center of the earth. He laughed nervously, told his partner he must be hearing things 3:42 a.m. The clock ticked once, then seemed to hesitate, holding its breath with the rest of the city. A single candle flame bent sideways, though the air was still. In the control tower, a man stirred his coffee, staring at a twitching gauge. He tapped it, smiled, and leaned back. That was the last calm heartbeat Tangshan ever knew. And then, the narrator's voice, calm, American, almost reverent sometimes. History doesn't give a warning. It just waits, for the moment we stop listening. Morning rose soft and golden over Tangshan. Steam curled from breakfast bowls, radios hummed faint melodies, and children chased each other between the laundry lines. The air smelled of coal and rice, ordinary, safe, human. At the steel factory, men laughed over shared cigarettes. Their hands were scarred, their jokes easy. One of them pointed toward the horizon where the smokestacks met the dawn. Clear sky today, he said. Everyone nodded. A grandmother fed her canary by the window. It sang louder than usual, wings fluttering fast. She smiled, thinking it meant good luck. A student scribbled homework by candlelight, his father fixing a broken clock nearby. Don't stay up too late, the man said. The world will still be here tomorrow. Down the street, two lovers shared steamed buns, whispering about marriage, about saving enough money for a tiny apartment. Behind them, a street vendor's kettle whistled, a comforting sound that had marked 1,000 mornings before. For a moment, everything was perfectly balanced. The rhythm of bicycles, the clatter of chopsticks, the laughter echoing through narrow alleys. Even the ground beneath seemed steady, like a promise. The narrator's voice softens, almost smiling. If you've ever woken to a day that felt normal, you already understand Tangshan. A slow fade, families crossing streets, radios buzzing, sunlight touching concrete walls. Then a single sentence, quiet but heavy. Peace always feels eternal until it isn't. The sun climbed higher, but the light felt different, thin, metallic. In the markets, people paused between bargains, noticing how the air carried no wind, only stillness. Even the flies seemed slow. At the power station, an engineer frowned at a flickering gauge. Probably dust, he muttered, tapping the glass. The needle steadied, but his hand didn't stop shaking. A group of schoolchildren rehearsed a song, their voices echoing strangely, swallowed by invisible hollows in the air. The teacher glanced at the ceiling, uneasy, then smiled anyway. In a coal tunnel, the miners felt a pulse through their boots. It wasn't loud, just wrong, like the earth had a heartbeat out of sync with theirs. On the surface, dogs began to bark again, then whimper, then fall silent. A horse broke its tether, eyes rolling white, nostrils flaring. A factory worker dropped his wrench. It rang too long, the sound bending, vibrating even after it hit the ground. He laughed it off, but his eyes stayed on the floor. A mother looked up from washing rice. The ceiling lamp swayed, though no one had moved. Her son asked if it was wind. She said yes, though she didn't believe it. Far away, a radio transmission cracked, half a sentence, then static. The announcer's voice dissolved mid-word, leaving only the hum of a dead frequency. In the hospital, a doctor reached for a stethoscope and froze. The metal was trembling, faintly like a living thing. The narrator whispers, breath low, almost reverent. Every disaster has a silence before it. Not peaceful, just waiting. A close-up, a teacup rattles against its saucer. A miner's lamp flickers once. A child's toy rolls an inch across the floor. Tangshan holds its breath, and somewhere deep beneath, the planet exhales. 3:42 a.m. The earth tore open. The first jolt hit like a scream through concrete. Floors buckled, walls twisted into dust. In a second, Tangshan became sound, glass, steel, bone, all breaking at once. A miner was thrown against stone. The tunnel collapsed behind him, cutting light to nothing. He shouted for his partner. No answer, only the rush of falling air. Above ground, an entire street lifted, then dropped like a heartbeat. Windows exploded outward, shimmering rain of glass slicing through the dark. A woman shielded her child beneath the bed. The mattress rose and slammed down. Her hands trembled, clutching him as the world fractured into roaring dust. In the power plant, turbines ripped loose, spinning wild. Sparks showered as pipes burst steam. The engineer who had tapped the gauge now screamed into static. A train derailed mid-curve, its headlights carving chaos through the smoke. Metal shrieked like an animal, cars folding into themselves. The hospital shook. Doctors crawled toward patients as ceilings collapsed. A scalpel clattered to the floor, blood mixing with plaster dust. A baby cried once, then silence. At the refinery, flames ignited. The night turned red, a storm of fire devouring rooftops, wires, and screams. Soldiers staggered through debris, radios dead. "Command, do you copy?" No one did. The city had fallen off the map. A bus flipped, its windows burst in midair. Passengers suspended for an eternal half-second before vanishing into smoke. In a small apartment, the boy's wooden toy car rolled off the table and disappeared under rubble. His mother reached out too late. The clock that had shivered stopped forever, its hands frozen at 3:42. For 23 seconds, the earth didn't shake. It convulsed. Roads split into rivers of dust, buildings folded inward, swallowing their names, their stories, their people. A factory worker crawled from the wreckage, calling his brother's name until his voice broke. Only echoes answered, soft, endless, wrong. From the sky, Tangshan was gone, flattened, erased, replaced by motionless gray. Helicopters later said it looked like the moon, silent, cratered, lifeless. The narrator returns, steady but haunted. In less than half a minute, a city of a million hearts became a whisper in the dirt. Wind carries paper across the ruins, pay stubs, letters, a photo of a wedding that never happened. A heartbeat fades in, 1, 2, then none. And for the first time since creation, the ground itself seemed to mourn. Dawn arrived, pale and wrong. Where streets once hummed, there was only dust and the soft crackle of settling rubble. A man coughed beneath a collapsed roof, the sound small, human, stubborn. A mother crawled through debris, hands bleeding, whispering her son's name into the ash. No answer. Only the low moan of twisted metal cooling in the morning air. A rescuer paused, listening. Beneath the silence, a faint knock, one survivor. He dropped his tools, digging barehanded until his nails tore. "I hear you," he said, though the voice had stopped. A child wandered barefoot across what used to be a playground, clutching half a doll. Behind her, smoke rose in straight lines, too tired to twist. Dogs whined beside their owners, then lay down quietly, as if understanding. At the edge of town, a man found his wife's scarf tangled in the branches of a tree. He pressed it to his face, breathing in the last trace of her scent before the wind took it. Soldiers arrived, young, silent, faces gray with disbelief. They stepped carefully, as if afraid to disturb the dead. One of them lifted a concrete slab. Underneath, two hands were still clasped together. The narrator's voice cracks, barely holding steady. When the noise ends, truth begins. Not in words, but in the quiet that refuses to leave. Snow began to fall, ash pretending to be mercy. People looked up, blinking, unable to tell which it was. A city once alive now breathed only through its survivors. Every inhale sounded like an apology. They said it lasted only 23 seconds. But for the ones who lived, time never found its way back. Every sound, every tremor, still echoed in their bones like a heartbeat that refused to die. Weeks passed. The ruins became a city of hands, digging, reaching, helping. People with no tools built graves with spoons, lifted stones with prayers. They searched for names, not numbers. A young soldier wrote home, "I can't hear birds anymore." Only breathing. He never mentioned the smell of dust or the faces that looked like statues of ash. In a camp outside the city, survivors sat in circles, passing bowls of rice, sharing silence. No one knew what to say, yet everyone understood. A boy drew a house in the dirt. Beside it, he drew the sun. Then quietly, he added smoke. The narrator speaks gently, almost as if afraid to disturb the air. Rebuilding isn't about bricks. It's about remembering who stood beside you when the world fell. Months later, green shoots pushed through the cracks. Children ran again, barefoot, laughing, alive. The earth had taken so much, yet somehow gave them back the will to try. An old woman visited the ruins every morning, laying a single red flower where her home had been. She whispered, "I'm still here." And maybe that was enough. Decades later, Tangshan gleams under neon lights, alive, rebuilt, breathing. Tourists take photos at the memorial, reading the names carved in stone. The wind moves softly through them, carrying the dust of memory. The narrator's voice deepens, steady, almost loving. It wasn't the quake that defined Tangshan. It was the quiet courage that followed. A final shot dawned over the new city, sunlight bending through the haze. The same sky, the same ground. But beneath it all, a promise carved into silence we remember. And because we remember, we rebuild. Fade out, faint violin, a single heartbeat, then stillness.